The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Hello, and welcome to the 169th episode of the World Blockchain Roundtable. Our hosts for today are, in no particular order, I am. Greg from Rivet will probably show up late, depending. Zach Kaiser and Andrew Joseph from the Legacy Right. I was on their show, a month ago? Something like that? Something close to that? Good show.
So.
Really interesting stuff. I don't know if Sean's going to be here or not. He might pop in. I don't know if Lisa will be here or not. Also, we have Aaron Day, who is Brownstone Institute Fellow, Daylight Freedom, and author of The Final Countdown. Not the song, though. I say that joke every time, but it comes up every time. John, who is the DAO selected MC, has not been on for how many months, William?
Oh, I'd say maybe 3, 4.
3 or 4 months.
Maybe
He's
longer.
Been lost in the tunnels of Brooklyn, we do believe. And so if anybody's up there, we are looking for him. And some point he'll be back and safe, we think. So real quick update on the Layer ownership tokens, the governance NFTs, distribution from last week's episode. Every host from last week will receive 222 lot. Every topic contributor will receive 83 lot. Last week's theme was nominated by I Am. Imagine that. He will receive 83 lot for that. The ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income in the layer itself, the World Blockchain Roundtable layer, free edits and governance votes. Because Zach and Andrew are on the first time, make sure to refresh everyone to know this is, I do believe, the first ever and the only, I do believe, DAO-based podcast where everything's controlled by the DAO. So if you guys get some of those governance lot, you can propose the most insane changes to the format if you want, and we will all vote on it, and maybe it'll happen. It has before. It used to be an hour show, I think, right? It's been so long, and we've been. This is 169 episodes. So what is that? Is that like three plus years we've been running the show with that format? Started as a DAO, and by the way, the number of NFTs that are produced each week is I can't remember the exact formula, but essentially it's based upon the number of views that the show gets on all of the channels, because it's on X and runs on LinkedIn, and it runs on where else? It doesn't run on Facebook anymore. We pulled that.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. No, we don't get any counts on YouTube. They don't count anything we do on YouTube. So,
Sean and Lisa will also simultaneously post the live show as well.
That's
on
right.
their channels.
That's right. So that's everything. Let's see here in news. So DAO news. I will pop this up. There is this one right here. Sorry, I was in the wrong place. So there's a change proposal, which is, what should the themes be for the month of September? The top 4 will be selected. Layer 1s versus layer 0s, Roger Ver's case update and its effect on blockchain, blockchain and quantum compute. Is it okay for a blockchain to be centralized? Blockchains for whistleblowers. Somebody voted on that already. I see. Blockchains used to store history and historical events. Is crypto and the world becoming centralized, more centralized or more decentralized? Blockchains used. Oh, this one's on here twice. Huh.
Ooh.
That's interesting. And quality blockchain projects that have failed. Jacob Wayne voted on that. So I've not voted yet. And it was only posted 17 hours ago. So it's about, I think, a week. Let's see here. When does it expire? Does it tell me? Vote by next Wednesday. So vote by next Wednesday. This month, we actually only got four topics were selected in the vote. So the last, because there's an extra week, and nobody voted on a fifth topic. It is, what is it? Freestyle, I think. So
I believe so.
yeah,
I had
so
proposed that we do a free
That's
if something else wasn't voted in.
I think it passed, right? I voted for it anyway, so
Good.
I did see that. That's right. Okay. So the theme of the week this week is fake tokens and scammers, how to clean up blockchain, episode 169. So before we go into questions, and by the way, I will, while it's live, I do refresh the questions live so that you can see the order is correct, because people only get credit if the if we get to the question in the list. So does anyone want to do current events instead, or do you just want to go straight to questions? What do you guys think?
I'm good with going into the questions first.
Right on. Okay. All right. So first up, about scammers. Jacob Wayne. All right. So this might be a cringy way to look at the world, and I don't know if I actually think this way, but do you think every project could be a scam if the creator decides to abandon ship? Like every project is successful until abandoned by the creators, or every project is a scam being held on by the creators until they get bored? Or do you think ill intentions need to be worked into the framework from the beginning of the project for it to be called a scam? So let's just go straight down the list. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think, with all startups and all projects, I mean, there's no guarantee of success. I think with a lot of this, it's all about experimentation and it's all about risk. So there are some projects that are scams where they were intentionally had ill intent, but I think for the rest of this, we just need to kind of take an approach of, hey, we're experimenting here. This is trial and error.
Yep. Excellent. Zach, what do you think?
I'm with Aaron on this one. I mean, honestly, it comes down to risk of assessment. So you're always going to have somebody that's out there with nefarious intent that wants to make as much as they want off of us plebes, peasants, whatever you want to call everybody. But at the same time, risks have to be afforded to, and you're gonna have some drop-offs. So
Yep.
Market schemes, boom bust cycle, pretty much. Someone's gonna bust, somebody's gonna boom.
That's the way it always is, right? And Andrew, what do you think?
I think, it's a matter of time preference. The longer that the market activity consolidates, the better chance you have of having a perspective of what is a valid project and what's just somebody trying to, scam the general population for a quick buck.
That's very true. William?
Yeah, I think I couldn't disagree with any of them, any of you. I think that we have to take in consideration sometimes developers will, get poached and move off to another project, and one project doesn't get completed. Maybe the roadmap gets posted and certain items don't get checked off or get completed on the roadmap, and people lose enthusiasm for a project. So the marketplace doesn't respond and it kind of withers away. I think the other part of it, it is just that, there are some that are, shall we say, a meme coin, and developers will create, and, someone, social media or something, maybe a small group of 5 individuals or something will pump something real quickly. And they'll get in early because they know when they're going to hit the launch button, and they'll get in ahead of everybody. pump the price, jump out. It's a meme coin, you know. Everyone's buying into the meme idea and thinking that it's going to have staying power and last, and it just doesn't. And meanwhile, that group of 5 that initiated that meme coin have already moved on to the next one. So there are, you know, the classic pump and dump, which is a scam. And sometimes the community can keep it going, and you know, they'll last. Look at Pepe, I guess. But for the most part, the market prevails. The law of economics, right? So the market's going to determine if it's a scam or not. Unfortunately, there will be those that will be hurt. It's a Wild West, and the market will prevail. And that's what we all rely on. We'd rather have a market that's unregulated and have these, you know, well, I'll be kind, government saps jumping in and telling us what we should or shouldn't invest in. So just let the market do its job.
The right word is demons, by the way, William.
There you go. Thank you.
But either way, and isn't it funny that you know, that it seems to be the only part of the crypto market untouched by the regulators is the meaningless side. And even if it's not a scam, you know, there are meme coins that aren't scams, but they are purposely meaningless. Therefore, the government doesn't come after you because none of the lobbyists get threatened, because Google and Facebook and all of those people are not competing. So it's like, yeah, sure, whatever, we don't care about them, but go after these guys, right? And the other thing that is two things worth mentioning with this are, and I don't even know if I have a really good example of this, but I know this occurs, that sometimes there are projects that are very experimental, but people that get involved, whether they are involved on the team or external to the team, can sometimes be the source of any scamming. That there are people that are outside of some of the projects that will, do things with bots and do things with the markets that are not good and are not really helpful to the community. That's an interesting thing. And then the other side is, in my opinion, I like looking at fundamental analysis. Like if you look at what the project is, is it a good basis? Is it is there a good purpose for the project? Is it, does it do something, or is there some actual utility value in it? And a lot of times, especially now, yeah, back in the day though, as well, if I see somebody leading a project that isn't, that is more focused on, their Goldman Sachs, person, and they not necessarily that they're scamming, but that they don't really understand what they're doing, and they're just essentially, let's have, it's the whole, let's reinvent usury with decentralized usury, right? It's the most ridiculous and bad thing in the world. But anyway, so yeah.
Actually, this is an issue that I've thought about a lot because it comes up time and time again. I point out scams all the time, and I get blocked by people all the time. And there's just a long list of this. But we talk about the market sorting this stuff out. But then when you look at most of crypto media, like in the ICO days, it's like you would actually pay for editorial content. So somebody would push your ICO through a so-called reputable news source. And then people were actually buying that as being journalism. And so one thing that we haven't done is we haven't figured out a way to use the free market to actually identify scams. And part of this is there's no financial incentive to do so, right? Every time I call somebody out, it's like somebody's going to drop into my DMs and say, oh, you're hurting somebody's bags. I'm like, you're ripping people off. This is a very clear scam. And so I remember back in the .com days, there was this site called Fucked Company. And it was during the dot-com boom where basically you would have people that were working at these companies that were failing post inside information about what was going on in the companies. And it became a really popular website, but I almost feel like we need something like that. There needs to be like a good repository, or maybe a way for projects to be public crowdsourced in terms of their scamminess. Perhaps. I don't know how that might work, but it could be a good idea.
If there was somebody that was attached or had, I'm not
Emotionally invested.
the networks of enough of these projects to do something like this. But imagine if someone anonymously could do what Inti does with the entertainment world, right? Where you list as like, oh, you wouldn't believe this story. It's so freaking crazy, and then people guess who it is, right? That would be awesome. Why does somebody do that? Somebody needs to do that. It'd be great.
I will say this: we have a lot more tools now available to us to determine if things are scammed or not. You go to Dex Tools and you'll see that it's got a honeypot check mark or not check mark, or has the contract been renounced? All kinds of different things. Who was the audit? Who completed an audit? And, we have a lot of things that are being developed. But yeah, it would be kind of neat if there was some sort of inside whistleblower posting, site.
Yeah.
Wow, Din.Social's got one of those.
That is something also. Sorry, I'll get the next question. But that is something else too. I want to know what you guys think about audits, because I've been on projects where they've had it audited, and oftentimes, for me as an engineer, I'm like, hey, maybe we can, if we want to find if there's any issues, right? That's why we really want to do it. Of course, the real reason for it is marketing, typically, right? That this is kind of like a check mark. I've been frustrated, and not all of them are like this. There are a couple of them that are really good, of course, but so many of them are just cookie cutter, where they just go through all the normal things, and if you're doing anything outside of this tunnel vision, they won't catch it, and they won't even understand it. It's frustrating.
I mean, Enron was audited by Arthur Andersen. FTX had an auditor. So to me, in a lot of cases, auditors are just, you're paying for social proof, but there's no actual. But the financial incentives are even wrong, right? Because the auditor makes money from the person that's paying them. So in some ways, it almost is counterproductive. I don't know what the solution is for it, by the way, but I almost look at the auditing thing as being another. Yeah, it's a check the box. Here's some more middlemen that we're going to put between the project and the community. And so, this is another one of these areas where we need a better solution, but I find auditing to be sketchy.
Yeah. Well, hey, I have a question about Xano, because you've been you talk about Xano occasionally, right? Does it have smart contracts? Are the smart contracts private? Because I have imagine if it were a black box, that is, the smart contract has an API and is a black box, but the code itself is still on the private side. So you could essentially hit it, and yet there's an interesting thing that from way back about the risk, which is a good risk of public smart contracts, that anybody can look at them and see where the holes are and kill them if there are holes, which is a good thing because it'll get killed, but it's also an interesting thing, right? So
Xano doesn't have smart contracts in part because of the implications of smart contracts with privacy. And so people go back and forth on this. Well, we really need smart contracts. And I go back to, we don't have peer-to-peer digital cash. We don't have the fundamental basics in crypto. So everybody's developing all of this other stuff on top of it. And it's like, we don't actually even really have digital cash. Yep. They are building an escrow account, but capability, and as kind of I guess maybe it's a native smart contract, but I guess it's complex, and so that's still kind of ongoing. But yeah, no, that is a big issue. Now, of course, you can there's a wrapped version of Xano, so if you want to bridge into some of these other ecosystems and use smart contracts, but I actually like the fact that they're not focusing on smart contracts.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. All right. I'll go to next. Anonymous. This is awesome. And I didn't even, did I vote on that last one? Yes, I did. So this is since I looked. All right. Question. I know I'm in the lion's den, but here it goes. To clean it up, shouldn't the government step in and ban these crypto things? I think so. At least regulate it with a heavy hand. Somebody's trolling us. Maybe only Bitcoin should get approval. Fewer victims would be the result. Regulate all of them and tax them like alcohol and tobacco. What about guns? Too many people have been hurt. Enough. Hashtag. Sorry, that's awesome. I love that. Okay. All right, let's go backwards this time. William.
Oh my god.
I think this is William. I think William was trolling us because there was not enough drama on the last show.
Heavy hand of government. Por favor. It's.
I don't even know I should vote this
I don't
up.
know
I
how.
should
I
vote it
don't.
down.
What?
I should probably put this
speechless.
down.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless just because, if you're going to look for government for a solution, forget it. It's not going to happen. And obviously, if you think that government can regulate cryptos, you're wrong there. So that's strike two. Educate yourself. I don't. Yeah, you're in the lion's den, I guess. I don't know what to say. I don't think this individual could be helped.
Andrew, what do you think?
I think people anticipate problems before they can realize that there are solutions that are already being worked on, and the more you concentrate on the problem, the more tunnel vision you have, and trying to really be innovative and be able to pivot and adjust your strategy accordingly. So, no, I think trying to concentrate on one thing is actually just going to ruin your opportunity to grow as a person, and trying to regulate crypto is just ruining everything you think you're applying for and going for it.
Zach.
All I can say is, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, be careful what you wish for, because
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
In
From
fact,
Col- yeah.
Aaron was telling me that before we went on live. So it's up. So
I mean, as far as like regulating, I mean, we know what regulations do. I mean, they benefit one side over the other. I mean, there's always corners to cut. There's always loopholes that are fulfilled, and special interest groups end up lobbying for more something better for themselves in order to crush the competition, right? So, like, why would you want to regulate, especially in a decentralized, what's supposed to be a decentralized field in crypto? Why would you want to regulate that to where it's going to benefit nobody besides like the hedge fund managers and the investors that have gotten into crypto since like 2017, 2018, when we had the first big, what's the word I'm looking for? The first big
Spike.
High spike. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Andrew.
Aaron.
The people should get together and ban government, not the other way. Government banning crypto. There's nothing good. There's nothing good that can come of it. And I agree with what Zach just said. I actually think this Bitcoin Nashville thing is set off a series of events that is going to harm and stop free markets in crypto faster than anything else. So it's a tragedy.
Yeah,
frankly.
And you look at what they were going to do had, and by the way, CZ, I was never like his biggest fan. I didn't dislike him, didn't hate him, but he was actually a hero for exposing what happened at FTX. And if he wouldn't have done that, we literally would have had regulation written by FTX's, well, probably his mom and dad would have been writing it. But either way, it would have all been to benefit him so that he could funnel more money to political parties and to war in Ukraine and wherever else that money was going. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And you can see what happened even in 2017, 2018. But I was always trying to figure out what kind of set off what happened in 2018, where the SEC sent letters to every project that was doing anything legitimate out there, and left alone a lot of the ones that were obviously scamming people at the time. And you know, you can say a lot of things, but it's very much the typical where, you know, regulatory capture stuff where, you know, the big guys can't, the banks or the big exchanges, or in some cases the venture capitalist groups were coming in and lobbying the SEC to go after these guys because you know, they were losing money because everybody knew, oh, you know, I can put money in here. I'm a nobody. I don't play golf with the right people, but I can put money in this and make money. And they could not have that. They literally thought it was evil. So it's horrible stuff.
One thing to add on that is whenever, like, speaking of the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, whenever you have Donald Trump or RFK speaking at your conference, that's probably not a good thing. Considering how Trump was for his first 4 years.
It's so frustrating too, because everybody thinks, oh, it's like, oh, they notice us now, they see us, they're gonna do, and it's this weird thing where and you know, it's somewhat similar to all the groups that were essentially going after a number go up. They didn't care about the utility. They didn't care about, oh, Bitcoin is cash. They're just like, no, I just want the number to go up. I want the bank to pick it up. I want an ETF. Essentially, they're calling for paper Bitcoin. It's really detrimental. So anyway, and by the way, this is an interesting thing. I'll show you guys this, that the amount here, 8.4 thousand, is the amount of energy applied to this prediction market. So if the consensus is down, then I will win some mining, and if it's up, then I will lose some mining. But the volume of energy is what dictates the size of the market and helps with, you know, organizing stuff. Anyway,
wisdom of the crowd.
Yeah, I'm always voting things up in this. I rarely get to vote anything down, so it's a good thing. And by the way, that's interesting. Anonymous, if somebody posts something anonymous, they don't get any rewards because it's anonymous. It goes to all of the owners of the layer. So anyway, oh boy, Maximalists, Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser, my favorite people. What if knowingly or unknowingly the Bitcoin maximalists are the scammers? So who do we want to start with? Let's go the opposite way. Aaron Day.
I mean, I think that they definitely are, whether they know it or not. And if you look, I actually wrote a post about this. I mean, if you look at Saylor's background, he's been working with the CIA and the NSA for like 2 decades or more. And you know, his company does all kinds of work. I think he's like 10 minutes away from the Pentagon. And he lost more money in one day during the .com era than anyone in human history. And, you know, there's a question to be said, like, which really, that was the market. He was the market top of the .com era. So what's interesting about this is he kind of brought in to pop a bubble, right? Like, is he really kind of leading people and leading Bitcoin into a situation where everything is about to implode? So I think that his version of Bitcoin is support KYC, support the IRS, don't compete with MasterCard, Visa, or the UK or the US. I mean, these are his own words. And then Max Kaiser has gone from, you know, early on in 2010, actually talking about liberty ideas, to backing dictators and supporting banning all other coins. So I don't, you know, this is always an interesting question. Did he start out with ill intent, or did just something happen along the way? I honestly don't know with him, but Saylor's, I think, had malicious intent from the beginning.
That's it. I actually didn't know the CIA connection, or the Intel, whatever it is. And by the way, we call it, what is it? I'm blanking from not enough sleep. William, what's it called? Intel Superstate? What is it?
The Intel Superstate, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Zach, what are your thoughts about these two?
I'm not really like Andrew probably knows more than me, honestly. But when it comes to like the Bitcoin maximalist idea, I mean, just go back to 2017 with the big spike, and then what happened through all that. I mean, Bitcoin finally peaks at what was it, 20,000 at that point, and then had that dramatic drop when everybody started buying in. But Bitcoin, you started seeing the more gravitation towards more centralization, and that's where you kind of got that Bitcoin Cash fork, because you had uh, this core group of engineers, I'll just say, that realize, hey, this is not what Bitcoin is supposed to be. Like, there needs to be utility. Like, Bitcoin is slow as balls. Even with Lightning, there's no utility to it. Bitcoin Cash would be the first step. I mean, I think the next step is like something like XMR with Monero because of the privacy base. But that, yeah, I mean, and then the Fed connection, I mean, that's kind of, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, because after that 2017 mark, that's when you started seeing all the hedge fund managers and the feds, the federal government kind of looking more into it. So all these guys with suits starting to show up at these conferences, when way back in the day, it was just a bunch of pot smoking hippies for the most part, getting into crypto, trying to be the agorist, true agorist. So, I mean, yeah, like, there's no utility. I don't agree with like Bitcoin maximalism, because it treats it more like an asset when it should be a utility.
Yeah. Andrew.
Well, I can remember pre 2017 reading on Bitcoin Talk about how there was these people who were investment bankers and stuff like that, who were, I guess, they weren't supposed to be operating in retail capacity, and they were freaking out because they'd gotten hacked and they lost all their Bitcoin core. And when that, that should have been a tell or an indicator early on, because there's people like Max Kaiser and other Bitcoin maximalists that are concentrated on trying to push and advocate, and then you have the Bitcoin Civil War. This is just they're releasing all the momentum that Bitcoin had, so that they can make a quick buck at the expense of future generations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you think, William?
Well, I'm looking forward to the second book, volume 2, because I think volume 2 introduces Saylor and more of Kaiser's role and his flip. I remember back in the day when Kaiser was the gold bug and preaching liberty and these kinds of things, before Bitcoin. And he I think would show up like on the some of the finance channels or the Sunday morning news talk show, that had something about the markets. So I was kind of a fan of Max Kaiser. He was always kind of out there and in your face, and of course back in those times too, I thought of, we need a government to come in here and deregulate everything and but maintain a government. So boy, was I wrong. So I guess I was been wrong on Kaiser. Saylor certainly has stepped in and become the icon, if you will, the Pied Piper for all the other little maxis underneath him. And I think it's sad, because Bitcoin has been captured, and I took it on the chin when I went with Bitcoin Cash, in 2017, and I still stand by that, because it was the right thing to do. It was the ethical thing to do. So Bitcoin has been captured. Maximalists do exist, and unfortunately, they're sequestering the market, and they're sequestering the development of Bitcoin, and on purpose. I think Saylor would, and probably Kaiser himself as well, which kind of would surprise me. But I think they would like to see, Bitcoin explode to $1 million, $2 million in value, and we have to pay $10,000, $20,000 in transaction fees on the Bitcoin network. I could see how they would want that to happen, and for that reason, that would cut out all the retail, the small the small folks that want to just, hodl their Bitcoins. And the real reason for all of this to exist was to cut out the third parties, right? And we're accepting these third parties by having someone who's running for president talk at one of the events. We're welcoming, we're rolling out a red carpet for a third party. It's just the opposite. There you go. So I think the maximalists in the end probably unknowingly are killing the reason, it was created in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know if it's unknowingly. Can I ask you something? When he was pro liberty Goldbug back in the day, did he wear bright red pants? Did he dress like a clown back then?
Oh, he was always
indicator?
Yeah, he was always kind of flamboyant.
Okay, well, all right, maybe that isn't an indicator. And it's like anybody who dresses like a clown is like always kind of like, well, wait a minute, it's like, oh, I'm gonna tear up this dollar bill and scream at you and stuff, or $100 bill, whatever. Anyway, yeah.
So I'm actually thinking about doing an article about this because I read the block size wars, which is kind of the other side. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the other side of hijacking Bitcoin, but I see some interesting parallels, and there's a discussion that actually needs to take place. And I think it mirrors what's going on with politics. So Bitcoin was hijacked. That's very clear. And I'm even going to take, the author of the block size wars, and I'll take what he says at face value, which is it's not even necessarily that the small blockers were right, but they won tactically. And actually, if you dig into that, it's kind of like, well, how did they win tactically? Well, they used similar tactics to what the Democrats use, and I don't want to, when I say that, imply that the Republicans are good. So let me caution by saying that. But what they did was they unified, just kind of like right now, people are like, well, Kamala Harris, she didn't even participate in the primary and everybody supported her. Well, that actually works. So we can sit here and complain about them not having a democratic process, but they have rallied around someone. And that's what the small blockers did. Meanwhile, during the block size wars, you had multiple different forms of different plans for increasing the block size. And that actually divided the big blocker side. Then they used propaganda, they used censorship, they even used denial of service attacks. But here's the thing, what we have to actually acknowledge is they won. So what do we do with that information? Because from my perspective, I don't want to become them or use their tactics, but at some point we have to actually acknowledge that those tactics are effective. And there's a whole open question for what to do about that. And I don't want to nuke this whole thing with that, but
that needs to be episode by itself, because in all truth, that really does mirror what's happening in politics right now. It's totally outside of crypto, that there is a side that is able to win, the propaganda war, because they have different rules, right? So it's just a crazy thing, and that's what. I by the way, I think it's a lot of the same people that are doing this in crypto, because it's the same thing. If there was a decentralized Hollywood, it would have been dead 5 years later, because they would have come in and destroyed it, because that's a threat to their ability to do what they want to do. Right? History is the other thing, which, by the way, that's one of the topics that we could talk about next month. That I think also history is a threat to them as well, with this decentralized tech, that they can't control it like they can the Wikipedia entries, right? So that's interesting. That's super interesting. All right. Let's see here. I am. Let's see here. SBF was a number up guy. Go up guy. When is number go up not a scam, or are all number go up meme coins and number go up DeFi coins scams? So, which order? We'll start with you, William.
Okay, I would almost like to punt, because I want to get your intake first. But no, you know what? Here's the deal. I guess to clarify it, I would say number go up is not a scam overall, only because you got to get market forces, to help support your project, or develop the. I hate to use the word hype, but that's what it is when you're in the early stages and the infant stages of a project. So it's critical that a project have market acceptance, market approval, shall we say, or that infusion of cash, especially if part of the mechanism for funding a project includes, shall we say, number go up. In today's world, I think that number go up is in some ways it's capitalism, unbridled capitalism. How's that?
Right, it's good. Andrew.
Well, I think, I'd like to kind of tie this into the last thing we talked about for just a minute. If you want number to go up, quote unquote, you need to have relative strength. And if you want relative strength, you have to have some kind of foundation or ethical code. The number may go up because people see a new coin and automatically invest, but they don't think that by just throwing money in there, you're throwing all your principles and morals out the window. So without principles and morals, you're basically going from having a home to being homeless, financially speaking, I think.
Yeah. Zach?
Utility.
Yeah. It's going off of what Andrew said. Like, it's almost like you see money going into something. That's when everybody gravitates towards the popularity. Something like, take Dogecoin, for example, literally started as a meme. And then Elon Musk got into the whole hype of everything, started plugging away and throwing money at it. And now it's just, look where it's at. It's pretty popular still to this point. And it's literally inflationary garbage. So, So numbers go up, it can kind of mask the reality, and then at the same time, it can actually help kind of market something. So I am going to have to read that book, though, or at least listen to it.
Yeah,
I haven't read it yet either. So
yeah,
so
look at Ric Flair WooCoin. There's absolutely nothing there, but people just see it as an opportunity to pump and dump.
I forgot all about that.
If you want to even further go back to 2017, look at DentaCoin. There's still volume on it, but nobody's using it. Nobody's doing anything with it. It's a long,
Big Connect.
Absolutely worthless, but yet it's still there.
Still getting volume.
So I didn't even realize Ric Flair made a WooCoin.
Yeah, it was just this last December.
Wow,
bizarre.
I think the disconnection from utility is one of the problems with this. And so, there's the question of, I think a lot of these projects are scams, and it's simply because if it's something like a hot dog token on Solana, and the only purpose of it is to drive the price to 150, then at the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game because the project has no utility. There's nothing being produced. So you can have number go up where the stock price goes up, but the stock price going up is in theory a reflection of the actual enterprise generating economic value. Many of these projects actually they're not generating economic value. It is literally only about price. So I think for those things, then, look, degenerate gambling should be legal. Like, I'm not making a statement about legality or illegality, but just acknowledge that going into these things, there's nothing being produced. And so there's no economic activity involved. And I actually think, to something that Joe, you said earlier, they don't regulate meme coins. And I just wrote this article. It's a really long article about tokenization in CBDCs. But in essence, I think that they allow this stuff because it is a distraction, because people are spending time just trying to pump the price of things that aren't doing anything. And behind the scenes, they're building CBDCs. Behind the scenes, they're building platforms to centrally tokenize all of our assets and basically transfer all of our assets digitally through tokenization. And so I think the one bad thing about this is that we're not building things. And in some ways, with ICOs, ICOs could be good or bad, but at least for the ICOs, people put together projects where here's a business plan. Here's what we're going to do with the money. Here's the use of proceeds. We skip that part altogether where it's like, this is just about price. And I think that's bad for us in crypto because we're not innovating, and the people that are on the team centralization are innovating, and they're spending a lot of money and they're making a lot of investment.
Well, we're skipping that point or that process, Aaron. You're exactly right. We're skipping it because why? The regulators stepped in and said ICOs are bad and they're unregistered, unlicensed securities, and so they stepped in. So everyone went scared and ran for the woods and started putting these things out without an ICO and trying to stay within the woods and not launch anonymously, et cetera, and you don't know who the devs are and these kinds of things. And why? Because that was a market reaction to the overregulation of ICOs. I'm almost at the point where I think what we should do is everyone should jump in and everyone should put up about 5 or 10 ICOs and watch them try to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
overwhelm them.
It's an interesting thing. It's and number go up by itself isn't the issue. There's some interesting stuff related to that. I was always interested in the early days with the difference between selling utility and selling stock, right? So particularly, and I've mentioned this before, and the SEC even tried to say, you said this. And I'm like, I was talking in the generic, not about dragons, not about my project. I was talking about the fact that this technology has brought about something new that people, instead of investing in stocks, could invest in utility. So, instead of buying, a share of Time Warner, imagine if I could buy a utility token that would let me, view programming. That it would seem that the value of that utility would be better aligned, or at least more efficiently aligned with the market value of the programming available, right? And I was even attacked for that, right? So, but it's just, that's what's interesting, and the fact that it is the only utility. Bitcoin's only utility is number go up now, right? That's the utility. Number go up. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and it's. If it weren't, you have to laugh about it, but it's actually very sad, because here's this massive opportunity, and we haven't lost in full yet, right? I think with Monero and Xano and some of the other Litecoin, some of the other privacy angled networks that we're headed in the right direction. But the problem is that I who knows? I mean, when you look at some of those networks, you don't know who came up with them. So is it a honeypot itself? Because I halfway think that Bitcoin itself was set up for that. That if some nation state were to have adopted it, that's why no one did. By the way, I halfway for a while.
El Salvador.
Yeah, well, but not the way, that's. And by the way, that even do you remember? I kind of liken what happened in El Salvador to what Facebook tried to do when they were gonna, because I almost guarantee. Now I don't, who knows? My thought is they wanted to essentially make it ubiquitous. This token inside of Facebook. Why? Because all of the boomers, all of the elderly that use Facebook would be using this token, and when it collapsed and they lost all of their life savings, crypto would be dead for decades, because no one would allow it. It's like, oh, you guys just want to cheat old people out of stuff, right? That it's like they set up the FTX same way. They set this up, they use it. This Intel superstate uses FTX for what it was actually set up for. And then when it actually collapses, then they come after crypto and say, this is you guys. And we're like, no, that's you guys. It's ridiculous. So anyway, it's pretty sad. But anyway, okay, let's see here. Question. I think this is the last question. So how many projects have failed and been labeled a scam when in fact they weren't, and just didn't get attention, funding, and then withered away? Some could have been called a scam by their competitors. Ethereum Foundation did this a lot, I do believe. Particular people, not everybody there, but people with very sharp, pointy elbows did this, I almost guarantee. this would mean that crypto investors and enthusiasts were tricked with fake news. The term maximalist comes to mind. So I think this happens a lot, and I think there are a lot of people that will just call anything a scam. They'll call something a scam if they bought in at the wrong time, or if somebody doesn't answer a question in Telegram or something. So there's a lot of that happens, and I know that a lot of projects out there, because I've been on a lot of those projects, I haven't gotten the attention because they don't have the VC money flooded into them, so they can make those, like the Solana chart with the 300 projects are building on Solana. It's like they're all financed by the same venture capitalists, of course, but 300 in this great big poster, right? And so you if you're in a legitimate project that's from the ground built up, you're fighting to get any attention against all of that. So anyway, what do you think, Aaron? We'll go down.
Well, first of all, I would say I think almost everything in crypto that has a VC and it is a scam. And that's I wrote an article about this in 2018. I mean, it's actually true when you think about what groundbreaking technology is venture backed in. It's been mostly pump and dumps, and I think this relates to the ICO situation, because what did ICOs do? ICOs cut out the middlemen. It cut out VCs and it cut out private equity.
Yep.
So even if you look at the funding, this Fair Shake pack, everybody in crypto is like, oh, great, we've got a $200 million pack. Who's in it? Andreessen Horowitz, the Winklevoss. I looked through their filings. It's all VCs. So, but I do think that things get labeled a scam. And I think in part it's because, to me, there's a lack of due diligence. So I spent time on, I was with a VC firm, but it was a kind of a startup VC firm at the time. I did this for a while, analyzing companies and everything else. And there's no real due diligence goes on. So everything that isn't number goes up becomes labeled a scam, which shouldn't be the case, but that is often what happens. And some of the scams are the ones that are actually the pump and dump schemes. And so we have a language problem in this space. In general, we have a lack of specificity with what words mean as they relate to projects and financing.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. What do you think, Zach?
Tinfoil hats coming on. So I honestly think it's, with all these scams like that do come about, like it's all by design. Like any scam that you see is most likely by design in order to discredit the industry of crypto and kind of diverge the market away from more freedom and creativity so that the state can come in and over-regulate like they always do and cement their control. So like, yes, there's scams, but there's always risks that you have to assess. People make bad decisions. They fall for bad things all the time. You just have to be able to like watch for it and study and know what you're getting yourself into. But as far as like many of the scams out there today with crypto, I think it's all by design. Most of it is conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat. It's all Fed ops. It's all world builder stuff. The Nazis are still around. They did not lose World War II. The Germany did, and it's just the governments of the world just trying to overregulate an industry to make sure that they get us prepped and prepared for whatever else that they have in store for us. That's why I think like Bitcoin was hijacked, because I think the CBDC that we're talking about now, that governments are talking about getting us into, is actually in fact Bitcoin. That's why it was hijacked. So the biggest scam of them all might actually be Bitcoin, now that it's been kind of discredited in its own way. So that's my take on it.
Can you imagine the applause that the decision will get if they decided to? So like Bitcoin is what we're going to use. They would love that. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. They would love it. Andrew.
Well, I think it depends on the framework and the momentum a company or a project has developed for itself, the outlook. You come into crypto winter, right? That's just like falling into quicksand, and the more strength that you have, the better chance you have of getting out of it and getting to the other side. But if you're a young team who's, just starting out in, specialized languages, they have all the enthusiasm in the world, but they don't have the foresight to be able to, anticipate what will happen 5-7 years from now.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
William.
I guess I'm next. So on the scam coin side of it, there's like all kinds of reasons for failures, just like new startups, outside of the crypto space, majority fail in the beginning, right? So there's a plethora of reasons for failures. And scams have been around forever. It's why we have limit laws with cars now, and I'm sure we've all invested in that Nigerian prince to help him get his bank account. So
shout out to Econ, bro.
So, and I will agree with Zach. I'll put on a tinfoil hat. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if we had intelligence operations around the world saying, let's build a couple of these scam coins and take some of these people to bring down the whole crypto space. So everyone, and then feed the propaganda to those few news outlets to say that, that criminals use Bitcoin and it's all a scam. It's a Ponzi scam and it's a Ponzi scheme. And they go on to talk about all of these things that are horrible in crypto, and intelligence is probably running some of these scam meme coins or whatever just to give it a black eye, so that the libertarians are stamped out and squashed. It's tough to go up against that battle, but we have to remember we outnumber them, right? And I still believe that the free market will win. The law of economics is on our side, and that, with our numbers, is how, with counter economics, we can dethrone the government.
You know what else is interesting? And this mirrors the political world as well. That the very attackers of what we're trying to build here are making money attacking it. So it's like they can come in and discredit us at the same time they're scamming people and stealing our money. And it's the same thing the Fed does, right? I mean, the Fed is, and I guess it's the same thing that all the banks, I won't mention any in particular, when they're making their paper Bitcoin, what do you think they're doing with the paper Bitcoin? They're buying gold or something else, right? I mean, that's what they're doing. That's the game. It is so crazy to me that, I mean, that's so obviously tyrannical, right? It's just bizarre. Anyway, okay. So we made it through in less than an hour. So who's sticking around? We'll do quick current events, memes, whatever else, right? I'm going to change the branding here.
One real quick item I'd like to mention. Aaron, I read your paper last night, your long post. And the great taking, like you talked about, I think in the middle of your article, was really good, and I encourage everyone to take a look at that. Though it's quite the setup, and today's conversation about scam coins and Bitcoin and these kinds of things really dovetail exactly into, I think, what we were all talking about, the CBDC threat. And that was a really good article. And what I think we're on the cusp of understanding that we can tokenize this world in such a way that we won't need their permission.
Yeah, and I thank you, and I appreciate that. And I want as many people to read the article. I'm plugging this article as much as possible. In fact, I'm probably going to do my podcast and maybe have a couple people on, but I just want to walk through the article. It is unfortunately like 9,400 words, but I wanted to lay out exactly what's going on here, and basically in a way where most people don't understand how the current system works, let alone what's going on with tokenization. But I want to summarize it as quickly as I can. And it's this: we have given away all of our rights through click wrap agreements over the last few decades. We sign between 150 and 400 click wrap agreements every year. And if you actually added up all of the words, it would take an hour of reading every single day, 365 days a year, just to read the contracts that we sign. And of course, none of us do. So we've given away our rights. Commerce is run through databases. All commerce runs through databases. Most databases are centralized and can be hacked and have corrupt intermediaries. So that most people don't understand or appreciate that. So we've signed these agreements. We use centralized databases, and now things are moving to tokenization. So people will say to me, well, I don't need tokens. What are tokens? They just think that it's meme coins. Everything will be tokenized. It's the evolution of the database. So the question is it going to be centralized or is it going to be decentralized? And the great taking is basically something that's gone on where they've changed the laws in the 50 states so that when there's a financial collapse, the big banks get all of our assets through bankruptcy. By tokenizing our stocks and bonds, it'll make it so that can happen with a click of a button.
Damn.
It's literally serfdom reform.
Yep.
Yeah,
It really is.
It's and by the that's the scariest thing. The 401ks, which is just a scam to get people to pump the stock market, right?
Yep.
And through tax policy, it's so ridiculous. Man. Anyway, so it's meme time. What are the current events this week? What's going on?
Let's see. What was this hack on the Social Security? Yeah, that's one. And you know what's funny is we just got a letter in the mail like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. One of the largest, insurance providers. We got a message that some of our information may have been, leaked, hacked, whatever by accident. your medical information. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, luckily they don't use Social Security numbers to identify any of us, right? So luckily, the fact that it was all leaked doesn't matter because they are not used for any reasons that they are not supposed to be used for. Correct?
Yeah, I should just in my caption down here, I should probably put my Social Security number. I encourage everyone to do that.
I'll lean into the conspiracy theory here. This is how Bernie Sanders can still win.
Oh,
Exactly. This was all a ploy for Bernie to jump in and win as an independent. Everybody's going to write him in.
Of course, the funny thing is they'll use this hack as a justification to try to bring in digital IDs. Somehow their incompetence will lead to more tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
On purpose. A hack on purpose. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And by the way, these memes have been collected en masse. I do filter out ones that I recognize might be offensive, but occasionally one slips through. So if you're offended,
as a Jew, I think this is pretty funny.
This one I was like, that is pretty good.
Oh man, I love this guy. I love all these memes by this guy, this shooter.
It's great.
With a hand in his pocket.
Yeah.
I got to go to the gun range and start practicing this stance.
I just want to know how the United States failed at capturing the gold and shooting.
Oh, did we? See, here's the lucky thing.
Sorry. There's a good meme on that, and it's that it's because the Olympics weren't held in a high school.
Oh, yeah.
God. That's pretty good.
Oh.
That's pretty good. Wow. That's pretty rough, man.
Oh, that's a good one with the mirror. Boomers with the mirror. I love that. All right. As a boomer, I can relate.
Wait, are you a boomer? Aren't you Gen X? Wait, what year were you born?
Who, me?
Yeah.
64.
Oh, you are. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, I hit the big 6-0 this year.
Wow. All right. I'm Gen X, so I'm like,
as a millennial, I don't like how he's aiming. He needs to have it sideways, like a thug.
Yeah. That's good. Oh man. So let's see. Our medical information's been hacked. Our Social Security number's been hacked.
NASDAQ lost 1,000 points.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's from the DEI hires.
Probably.
Yeah, there's been here's a weird thing. So I talked to a family member, and I don't even know what brought it up, but he's traditionalist, no crypto, but I asked him, what about the stock market? Because it lost what, 3 trillion or something. I don't know if it recovered. I don't pay attention, right?
Yeah.
But I did see that. I saw all the pictures of red boxes, right? And he said, "Oh, the stock market's doing great." And I'm like, "Is that normal? That I mean, is it just maybe I'm in a bubble or something, and I think everything's going to hell quickly, or is it just my expectation?" I tell him, "Well, I know it's going to fail. I know it's going to crash sometime." So anyway,
Yeah.
I do remember seeing a chart probably about 6 months ago, and it was showing like a 12-year, a whole year by year, and it was showing bearish divergence pretty bad on the relative strength index. So, and it's going back to the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as long as it's not the 30s.
Yeah, right.
Well. So the interesting thing is the market that day when it had that supposed big crash because of everything with Japan or whatever all of it was, it actually only dropped a couple of percent. Which when COVID started, like if you actually compare on a percentage basis, the 1 day drop during COVID was like 10% or something. It was a huge deal, and it recovered. But again, part of it is it's like, you want to talk about a scam, right? 401ks are driving stock price. The stock price has nothing to do with people actually even making decisions about the price. It's money coming out of people's paycheck every 2 weeks, automatically going into 401ks to buy stock. Like it is the ultimate Ponzi. So I'm waiting for it to collapse too. But one realization that I have is that the only reason it hasn't completely collapsed already is ignorance and propaganda and censorship. And by the way, those are powerful forces, as we talked about earlier. So I don't know how long those forces can possibly go longer than we anticipate. Or I know I've been wrong on the timing at least.
I think the ignorant part will probably be fixed when they go and grab people's 401ks, because they're going to do that at some point. It's like, we have to have the money, so sorry. And then everybody's like, wait.
Right. Not your keys, not your crypto. That really needs to be expanded to the boomers to say, you think you hold these stocks, but you don't. Well, that's you think you hold them, but not your stock certificate, not your stock is really what comes down to, and that's part of the big taking. And they're voting on our behalf, like you've said, Aaron, in your post, and I think you just mentioned too. That's why BlackRock is voting for the certain ways that in the percentages they hold of a company by the stock they hold. We've given away our voting privileges as well. So it's the same, it's the exact same damn thing. Not your keys, not your crypto. You're not holding it.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part of Donald Trump winning the election is like he has, speaking of BlackRock, Larry Fink is in the running to be his Treasury Secretary, and then what's his name? Jamie Dimon of Goldman Sachs, or no, JP Morgan is going to be in his administration somehow as well. Probably his Fed chair as soon as what's his face runs out his term.
By the way, this meme is excellent. What do you guys think of, speaking of Trump, the campaign, and all the people that are in it, including Vance and including all the rest of it, the Groyper War stuff? What do you guys think of that?
I might register to vote this time and vote for Harris to hasten the collapse.
Yeah,
I'm all for accelerationism.
I'm kind of there. I'm kind of there too. I put out a thing on this. Like the best option, I think, is Harris wins the presidency, and then the Democrats win the House, and Republicans win the Senate. And I say that because it will make people finally realize there's no political solution, but it will at least give us some time to get in more people into crypto before it's completely locked down.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, I've wondered that too. Right now, I'm not voting, but there is a definite chance that accelerationism should be the way we go, because it's like if we get Trump in, then all the boomers, it's like, okay, now everything's good again, and
We can relax.
Yeah.
not going to be what we need. So, anyway,
I say write in Bernie. Just write in Bernie.
Just write it.
A vote for Bernie is a vote for Kamala, which is a vote for collapsitarianism.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe we should start with a 50-state secession, kick DC out, and then each of the 50 states could do their own secession, and then each city-state could do its own secession, and then we as individuals could. No, I don't know. I don't know how.
Yep.
I don't know how you tear it all down. The sad thing is, once there's a collapse, history shows that you get some kind of real tyrant that takes over the reins, because the normies are going to solve my problems.
That was a bad idea, Germany. Let's do it all over the place.
Oh, speaking of which, that's the other thing. The collapse not being as bad as the 30s. I don't know who said that. Tell me if this is a reasonable thought. When Weimar Germany happened, the recovery. So that when Hitler came in and recovered through various means, Germany was not the center of the world economy. It was basically dead and then brought back to life to be a powerhouse in Europe. If you're talking about what will happen, and I think that's the other reason that the collapse is taking longer than a lot of people expect, being when you look at how crazy the debt numbers are and how everything is so corrupt. I have to think that it's going to be so radically worse than the 30s when the current economy collapses, because you're talking about the center of the U.S. dollar, where the infinite money, that's what's going to collapse. What the hell is that going to do? It's going to be crazy, I think. So
us losing reserve status and it becoming, say, the BRICS and the dollar competing with each other between the fringes of which country falls into which group. I think that's going to be China's got some issues too. So it doesn't mean that just because China and Russia combine and make the BRICS, that means that they're going to be in a stronger position than, say, the West. But I think we need to dial it down and not get so 60,000 foot altitude and looking down, maybe kind of lower the plane down to more like 20,000 and look down and look at the upcoming election in November. 50% of this country is going to be upset, and they're not going to trust the results, no matter who wins. I don't know who, and I don't know at what point which side starts taking to the streets, and then whoever is still in position. And I would guess that Biden is probably going to be 25th, and Harris is going to become president and get her name in the classrooms of every school child to look up to. And that's what's going to happen for even just a few months. Even if Trump is installed in January, I don't see how the left is going to accept that. And if it's the other way around, I don't see how the right is going to accept that. So this November, between November and January could be really tumultuous. Who knows what's going to happen in the streets? Prep, people.
So I think that the collapse isn't going to be, well, in many ways it's going to be worse, but worse in a different way. The collapse is intentional, and what's different about the collapse this time is I think that it isn't about the United States versus China or BRICS or Ukraine versus Russia. I think this is all manufactured theater. I think at the end of this, we get one global government. When we get a digital currency backed by energy credits with a social credit system that's the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's actually what they're building. And so they're counting on our fear of collapse to not do anything. And when we don't do something, it allows them to enhance the surveillance state and put the infrastructure in place necessary to push their technocracy. This is why my whole thing is we've got to get into privacy coins and everything else and start working outside of the system. And speed is the only weapon that we have, because the longer we wait, the more we take a fearful approach of, well, I don't want to push things now because it might cause collapse. We're giving them more time to put in place their surveillance infrastructure. I mean, as to the outcome of the election, I don't know about this. This could be a whole other separate talk, because I had a conversation with somebody about this idea of we are so addicted to dopamine and interacting with our devices that we move on from things so quickly. Like, think about all these manufactured conflicts that never get resolved. And then we go from one thing to another. Literally, I would have thought that this election would have been about COVID tyranny, right? Nobody, it's not even an issue for debate. They tried to assassinate Trump or not, or whatever the circumstance was 3 weeks ago, and it's not even in the news cycle anymore. That's how quickly stuff moves on. So they'll go, the election will happen, but we'll move on to something else like this, just because we're distracted and we're able to move from one manufactured polarity contest to another.
Man. Yep. This is true.
And that's the thing. Speaking of this meme, I mean, this is starting to slowly dissipate, and it's just recently where, I mean, the UK even what was it? The UK director of police said that they'll even try to extradite Americans. Yeah, so I mean, and that's slowly disappearing, because it's like, yeah, it's done. Move on to the next story. But I mean, that's speaking of one world tyranny, like that in itself, and what's going on in UK, like that's what they're setting up for. Like 1984 is becoming a reality.
Right.
Yep. I mean, that one guy who he posted something that was, in America it would have been like, yeah, that's just political speech, but like he got 14 months or something,
20 months,
and then the guy, the same judge, the rapist got like, I don't know, weeks or something, right?
Something like that.
Insane.
Bad.
Yeah,
Pretty
but
bad.
yeah, I thought it was going to be political. The COVID narrative was going to rear its head and be part of the election too. But that just proves how big pharma or the Intel superstate is controlling the media. They're controlling what we want to watch, what we watch, what we see, what is news, what is not news. They're controlling it. You would think if we were freedom conscious, this whole thing that's happening in the UK, the world would be raising its arms in support of the people being able to post what they will. But no, it's just the opposite. It's sequestered, it's suppressed, and we don't know, how far they're taking it in the UK.
Yep.
It's sad. It's really sad.
Yep. It's craziness.
I was watching a podcast episode with Michael Malice and Glenn Beck a couple weeks ago, and Glenn Beck made a really good point. He said, he didn't say it this way, but he was basically saying, whatever it's boiling under the surface, it's contracting like it's about to burst something. And I think, all these things that keep getting memory hold, and after an event, it's accelerating, and something certainly is coming in out the road here that we're not going to be too terribly happy about.
Right.
And it, I mean, if you just think back to like 2000, when Obama was in office and stuff like that, they were using the post office to buy large amounts of ammunition and stuff like that. And this has just been continually contracting and getting faster, like I said, and accelerating. So there is something.
Department of Education has guns, and who else? There was like a couple of wow,
post office and IRS, and just people who had no business getting a large volumes of resources like that, and they're just taking it, and they don't have anybody to stop them.
It's crazy. What else?
How about the Trump Elon interview?
Oh.
That was news this week.
Yes. Oh, and the DDoS. I couldn't even watch it. I was going to listen to it, right? And I was like, I can't even get in. So I didn't even end up listening to it.
It was such a nothing burger.
Really?
I had to stop it and come back to it. I thought, I'll listen to the rest of it tomorrow. It was it was interesting getting his point of view, but
Was it what do you guys think? What was it, a DDoS attack, or was it just basically Spaces acting up because Elon still hasn't rectified all of his firings from November of 2022?
Well, given how the EU responded to Elon about even having Trump on there, I think it was a DDoS. I like it if it's a DDoS. I don't trust Elon, but I think if he said they tested it for 8 million earlier that day and it passed. But then I thought 8 million, well, is as popular as Elon is, as popular as Trump, I would think it would have had more than 8 million concurrent users trying to listen to the thing. I was having a hard time connecting, and then I connected when there was like 850,000 people connected. But so I kind of found that was a little bit strange. I would think more than 8 million would have been watching, given those two powerhouses of.
I think that a lot of things about this. One, I think that X is completely overblown in terms of its impact and how many people are actually using it. And this is in part just based on what counts as a view, right? If you just log into, so I got disconnected 8 times trying to log into the space. I got counted as 8 different users, right? When you look at what counts as a view, it's like 1 second. So people are sitting there saying 1 billion views, 16 million people. First of all, no, it's actually a really small percentage of that. But I want to say, because I looked this up at the time, when FDR did his fireside chats in the 1930s, he would get between 60 and 80 million people listening. And that was when the population was only 120 million. So when people talk about how great of a success this is and how it's groundbreaking, it may be groundbreaking in terms of how many concurrent users you have on a live stream, but it is a grain of sand, on a beach in terms of what it represents in terms of the percentage of the population and voters actually watching it. And interestingly, it was a nothing burger. I won't even talk about the content because that's a whole separate thing. But it had if it was such a watershed moment, why have the polls only gotten better for Harris? And you know what? People might say the polls, but prediction markets and polls, right? He got no bounce from this supposed watershed event. So anyway, those are my takes.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, speaking of, and I have some direct experience with this in old Twitter. This is probably around 2014, 2013, somewhere around there. And this is the first time I noticed this. And then later, it was admitted by Facebook, Reddit, and Twitter that essentially the entire site was brought up with bots. And when they explained it, when they said, "Oh yeah, we use bots," it was to highlight the fact, "Oh, we did these great things to get adoption, so there was activity," right? But that wasn't really what it was. It was all fraud. Again, venture capitalist fraud, because they were getting exponential user adoption through the roof, and it was all bots, which led to their actual. And I guarantee the SEC knew this. That when they actually did their IPOs, it was all based on fraudulent information, which should be prison time or at least big fines. But yeah, that's not going to happen. It's crazy anyway. So yeah, who knows anymore? And by the way, like YouTube will go through and eliminate accounts saying, "Oh, these are bots," but how often is it real? Does Twitter do? I don't think so. So it's kind of frustrating. But I don't know what else.
I have a question. Do you live stream to federated networks?
Federated networks? No. I mean, I don't know. What do you mean? Do you mean
like a federated network is basically like Pawu and stuff like that? If I remember correctly, it's a social network where people can actively block the network, but it isn't they can only block it from their point of view, but it still exists to other people.
Oh,
It's a decentralized social network, kind of like a Dragon Den.
huh? I don't know. I mean, we don't. What are we on right now? We had to actually. They changed without notice the X, where you had to have a premium account. We didn't have a premium account for the what we broadcast on at first, so we had to do that. We're on Twitch, YouTube, which is almost worthless, and LinkedIn, which is also not very so. But yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to do that. It does. We used to broadcast to library also, but that went away. So yeah. We should we're open to whatever we can push to.
Okay.
So, we showed this last week. This is one of the best memes I've seen in a long time. But
Wow, that's brutal. It's brutal.
Crazy. I don't know. Anything else? And I was like, we get through this. We're not even at an hour and a half.
Yeah. So one thing that just happened, and I don't know if anybody has any information on it because it was just announced, but apparently a judge just signed an extradition order for Kim.com to the United States.
I saw that last night.
I saw that too.
Oh yeah, New Zealand signed the order, and Kim.com said, "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I like New Zealand." So I don't know what that does. He have a bunker that they can't that Hillary can't get to with her helicopters, or
I don't know. Given how New Zealand was with the COVID, I don't see New Zealand protecting them.
Yeah.
Well, no, they've been violating his rights. I mean, he's been fighting it for a decade, but New Zealand has done any number of illegal things in this process to help facilitate and work with Biden and Chris Dodd and all these other people representing the entertainment companies. I also would say I actually think that the Roger Ver thing is linked to Kim.com, and so I have a bad feeling about all this.
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean?
So Roger was support. I don't know if Roger was support. Bitcoin Cash was supporting Kim.com. He was working on File Shop or something like that. A next thing, and it just so happened that Roger was arrested within 24 hours of the DOJ reopening and going after Kim.com, and I find that to be related. I mean, I don't have any
Yeah,
they're trying to go after them for very similar reasons. They want to shut down Roger because of hijacking Bitcoin and maybe equally his promotion of Zano, because he was actually talking about that. His last public talk was actually about Zano. And unfortunately, Kim.com has not released File Shop yet on BCH, but I feel like that. Again, I have no evidence for this, but I do think that they're linked. I think that because it's the same DOJ going after both of them, they have prosecutorial discretion. So if they're going after Roger and they're going after Kim.com at the same time, yeah, it is coordinated because it is their discretion. So just something to keep in mind.
Wow.
Yeah, that's huge.
No doubt. I mean,
it makes you wonder why they were willing to make a deal and get Julian Assange kind of swept under the rug while they do this. So like they're moving on to the next operation to try to discredit and take down. So keep him quiet. So
wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, look who's still in prison, like Ross Ulbricht, Aaron. Drew a blank on the gentleman's name, and
Ian Freeman.
Ian Freeman. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking about our DOJ, what's her name that ran in 2020 for president? Tulsi Gabbard. She's a Democrat. Now she calls herself an independent. They have her on the Quiet Skies list. So that means she's got to go through full TSA search, dogs, because she's a militant threat to the government. Prior service in the military, prior, two-term congresswoman from Hawaii, runs for president in 2020, and now she's on not the no-fly list, But that means now that she flies, either her or her husband, they have to go. Well, U.S. Marshals have to be on the plane, so they bump somebody else on a full flight, so they can get 3 marshals on the plane to fly with her because she is a threat. You know, if they're going to threat someone like that with a distinguished military career, who ran for president in 2020 and really thumped Harris in the debates, well, what does that tell you? So, you know, people like Kim.com and Roger Ver, not even U.S. citizens.
It's tyranny.
Yep.
Well, and she was former military, but she didn't. She wasn't killed. And that's what they really want. I mean, they the only reason they send off Americans to war is for the blood sacrifice. So
right, she was on the Armed Service Committee, and now she's a dove. She's a peacekeeper. She wants no part of the Ukraine. She wants, you know, what's happening in Israel. So she's fighting against the military-industrial complex. Actually, I believe the better description, like you said, Joe, you called it the intel superstate. All the Western governments, intel and military complexes, along with the central banks, is called the intel superstate, and she's bucking up against them, and so they're trying to get her back in order. And Hillary was negative about her comments.
I don't know. Tulsi rubs me the wrong way, in part because her last Army experience was in the Army PSYOP division.
Yeah,
and so she's kind of a dove. I mean, yes, she's against Ukraine, but she came out pro-Israel. So she kind of even walked that back. So I mean, whenever I see her, even down to the streak in her hair, I'm like, is this actually a PSYOP? Is she? What is her? Is she? Are there really TSA agents? Is her story even real? I actually called somebody out on that. Is this actually? I would like to see proof that that's happening. Yep. Maybe it is. It could be.
The whole Army PSYOP girl thing, right? It's the same thing, right? It's just the modern version of it. So
remember, she's a Democrat who is now on Fox News. I mean, perfect PSYOP.
Yep.
And it's so funny.
Good point.
They've thrown this stuff at us so often. I mean, I'm kind of dumbfounded that I was so stupid not to have seen some of this stuff before, right? Because now it's so obvious when you see what they do, and you see the whole Trump assassination. Oh, it was Iran. I was like, oh, really? It was Iran? Are you serious? Iran? Oh, it's like we need to go to war with Iran. Obviously, it's so freaking ridiculous, and it's from both sides. And Trump states, oh, he's against war. He didn't start any wars. It's like, but the fact that he says, well, if they actually kill me, you need to go and take out Iran. It's like, you want to get killed? Because it's not Iran doing it. It's somebody who wants us to go take out Iran. I'm not going to say who it was. But anyway.
Good point.
Crazy was clowns. The whole thing. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if freaking he drops Vance and gets Max Kaiser, because we need more clown shows, right? he's gonna have Max Kaiser as his running mate, so he can really get the Bitcoin vote.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
that's where we're headed, guys.
Oh my goodness! I don't know. So what are the solutions? Counter economics.
Oh, we can't say without being canceled, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some rough. So the solution is maybe to wait and see what happens, but prepare. Have some dried fruits, vegetables, and meats, and some heavy metals of various types.
Invest in rope futures.
Yes, rope futures. Yeah. Yeah, I need to find that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. You guys keep going on the next thing. If I can find the video here, I will look for it. 1 second.
Those are some wild swings for rope coin.
Privacy coins, privacy tokens. Yeah, voluntary counter economics. That is it. I'm doing more of these workshops, and I'm even more doubling down. I was thinking that maybe changing some of the laws on the state level, even though I've done some state political activism. And then some stuff has happened recently. There's a free stater in New Hampshire who has promoted a lot of pro crypto legislation, and he just came out with an op-ed yesterday supporting Loomis, supporting the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. There's no state level. I mean, I was already done, but then I was kind of partially getting back onto maybe we can work at the state level, and it's like, no, that's over with. It is now all in on exit and build.
That was my political journey after spending a little bit of time at the state capitol. It's like, and all the bullshit that happens inside the hallways. That even at the state level, that's a no-go. So, and that's how I ended up where I'm at now, and classify myself as an agorist, because I abhor it's evil. It's not we the people anymore. We don't have a voice. It's all about the voice. Is the donor class, who even control the hands of government. So, it's
I think I found it. I think I found it here. Let's see if I can.
I agree with you, Aaron. I think what we need to do is we need to talk more about what can be tokenized, the value of it. I'm really intrigued with the idea of tokenizing assets, like say on Zano, and having streams of privacy income, dividends that are private paid dividends from private tokenization of real assets. I like that concept. And I think that can win a lot of people over, and educate a lot of people. But everyone has their own journey, and they're going to go down their road their own way. I did a calculation a couple of weeks ago, and Litecoin Lisa's show, she had me on there 2 Mondays ago. Do you realize if every transaction from either bank to bank or us as individuals, as consumers, every time you swipe your debit or credit card, every transaction, if you took the total spending of the federal government, state government, and local governments and combined them into one, and just paid, let's say we eliminated all of the taxes, every excise tax, every income tax, and we kept 100% of our income. And instead it would be like a sales tax, but a transfer tax or transaction tax, just like if you were, spending on Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin, the transfer fee, right? Do you realize that the price for, like, let's say I wanted to buy a $5 cup of coffee, it's $20.80 to pay the current level of government, going from your mayor's office, your school, all the way up to the federal government. That doesn't even include the debt service. Okay. That's just paying the current levels of government. So your $5 coffee would actually be $25.80. That's as of 2023 numbers. If you wanted to pay off the total debt of all those levels of government, and over, let's say, 30 years at the current levels of interest rate, that would add on almost another $6. So now you're $31 for your cup of coffee. Every time you went to the grocery store, scan. Every time you made your monthly mortgage payment, boom, or your rent payment, and you scanned it, or wire transfer, bank, ACH, whatever. Can you imagine? That's our current cost. And if we don't feel it, that's why it's complicated. That's why taxes are complicated. And that's why taxation is theft. Because if you don't feel it, you don't know it. And they can keep that going. It's insane. It's insane.
All right, here's one. This, at least this is old, but I'm going to share this. Tell me if you can't hear it right away. This guy was, it was kind of funny actually, but oh, wait a minute. Where am I at? I can't see it. All right.
Be a major problem with this. It allows for a lot of wiggle room between these railings, and that could easily cause a derailment, which is the last thing that you want with a guillotine blade. So for safety reasons, I'm going to have to go with the backup plan.
Maybe this is all a terrible idea, socially unacceptable nonsense, just a frivolous little project irrelevant to the hearts and minds of anyone. but I don't believe that. Why am I building this? Because it needs to be built. Better to have one and not need it than need one and not have one. Because there's an unspoken understanding that everyone is beginning to feel in their core, a growing awakening to the reality of our circumstance. Every day the divide grows wider, and we've all fallen into enslavement under fraudulent authorities, those who claim to serve our best interest, who continuously pulls the rug from beneath our feet the second we feel secure enough to stand up.
I can already see a major.
Anyway, that was
Wow.
that was hilarious. It's better to have one and
Well,
not need it.
Not neat.
Like old times.
Yeah.
God, it's so funny.
DIY projects are so important, boy. You know, that's good. That is really good.
Yeah, he makes lemonade
that's-
in another one, and it's like
That's nice that now that I've seen that, because I was thinking about going out in my backyard and building an old gallows, bringing back the 1880s.
Oh man,
It's better to have one and not need it.
We got to import the French Revolution, just in case.
man. All right, I don't know. Are we done, man? I'm actually surprised. Thank you, William, for I think you probably win on bringing the most current events to bear, because I had forgotten about half of those. Everything gets memory hold, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, as soon as WTC 7 it's like everything has gone that same way since. Nobody even remembers. It's like, oh, what are you talking about, Joe? I don't know.
Who's 70's over?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy. We're it's exciting. It's fun times to live in. I'll tell you that. As I'm getting older, and this is the most exciting point in my life as far as global economics and everything that's taking place. But having said that, weak men bring hard times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have now. And whatever you want to call it, the awakening. One last point I would like to make, and I'm exploring this, and Aaron, maybe you can kind of chime in on this concept, but if we were to look at the everything bubble and its pop, of trying to define or determine when it's going to pop, if you were to look at, let's say, Venezuela, and how much money printing has gone on in Venezuela over the years, right? And plugged in that model, you could almost say, I know it's not apples and apples, but you could almost say maybe this could continue on for a lot longer than we think. But then there's things like I've been really starting to look at this whole, it's called CAD, centralized appraisal districts, and how they determine home values, and then that rolls into the tax rolls for your state, county, or city for home pricing, so that they can determine the tax rate for property taxes. And essentially they're manipulating even those numbers, of course, because if housing prices collapse, then school districts, which actually are already are bankrupt. They can't cover their pension. So that's part of that everything bubble, right? And we're starting to see that crack, and we're starting to see, and we're learning now that it's really a RICO case. And that's horrific. And you start thinking in those terms. So there is a lot of blood on the streets that is going to happen when it all pops. But I don't know, Aaron, what are your thoughts? I mean, if you plugged in the Venezuelan model, we got several years before it all collapses. But then the CBDC is the wild card.
So I think this, what is different about this, and again, what I touched on in the article, and I go into in my book, is that this is a 50-year thing that they've been working on towards one global government. So every fiat currency in human history has failed. The average fiat currency dies in 27 years. So we know that it's inevitable that it's going to collapse. But what is different, and it changes all of the economic models. When you hear people talk about crypto, they talk about Gresham's law, and they give you all of these different economic theories, none of which apply in a complete surveillance state with digital programmable money. All of the economic theories go out the window. And I'm going to write something about this because there's so many people being attached to these different theories. So I don't know. I can't predict the timing, but we know what their intention is. It's 2030, right? So I think that this can go on for longer than we think. But the difference is when it stops, I don't think it goes to blood in the streets. I think it goes to the problem reaction solution, and the solution, which will seem like it's a savior to people, right? Oh, UBI. Oh, digital currency.
Yes.
Oh, digital ID. It will seem like a savior, and yet it'll end up leading to, depopulation and the loss of free will. That's the more scary part of it. I don't think it's going to be cannibalism and guns and civil war. I think it's worse. I think it's going to be the mass acceptance of complete digital tyranny.
Yeah, man. I was at least hoping for zombies. I mean, at least
that'd be fun. Yeah. Speaking of that digital ID, didn't Australia just recently pass something this past week, or probably actually longer than that?
I didn't hear that. Didn't who pass what?
Australia passed some sort of new digital ID thing for. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but
Australia's always on the make. They're trying to do something.
I think it's a licensing thing for social media. You have to set up a digital ID to use social media or something, and the police have all their federal agencies know all your information.
Yeah,
it's.
Is there something about actually limiting social posting, or I can't remember what it was. There was something that was crazy.
What they do is they do a dry run like North Korea and China. They'll experiment in a small sandbox and then extrapolate it from there, see what they can get away with.
Yep.
If you got time, I'm going to recommend something. Some of you probably know who Doug Casey is. He's hardcore, he certainly is an anarchist, he had about a week ago, he had a gentleman on his name by the name of Jan on his podcast, Michael Jan, who travels all over the world and looks at war zones and the migration and changing of how countries' cultures change, and even Doug Casey, who's a hardcore gold advocate, and now lives in Uruguay and Argentina. Anyway, it's fascinating to hear him talk, and he's talks about how the UK has already fallen, Canada's already fallen, the US is going to fall, and what's up and coming. And I encourage you to listen to that. It's to hear Doug Casey pretty silent. Said a lot, and I've been following Doug Casey for years, so take a look at that. It was just a year ago. His what's his podcast called? Oops, I hit the button. But it's Doug Casey's Take, special guest Michael Jan, episode 339. I encourage everyone to take a look at that. That's a good viewpoint when someone who travels around the world and looks at these hot zones, and they can very easily predict what is coming. And that's what this Michael Jan does.
Wow. I don't know. You guys want to cut here? Do you want to? Thanks for staying on the whole time. I know I didn't get enough sleep last night. I don't know what one of you guys said you didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah, I know. I didn't either. So I'm operating slow.
Andrew hasn't slept. So
wow, Andrew. Man. I appreciate you two joining us.
Yeah, it's great. I'm sorry it took so long. I intended to invite you way back, but I kept. Anyway, I don't have the email list, and anyway, it's all. But
it's a process.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. So
you guys are welcome.
Appreciate it.
And by the way, Aaron, your long post is great too to listen to. It's nice. You could bump it up to 2x speed or 1.5 speed, and on the brown.
Oh yeah, we should get that link. I don't know. We can at least put it in the den, in the thread on today's show because we talked about it. Because I haven't seen that. I was like, I'd like to read it.
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be on Zero Hedge, so I'm going to blast it out if it gets on Zero Hedge. But if not, I'll just send the link directly to the Brownstone thing.
Cool. All right. Well, okay. So let's just go down. Let's go up the list. William, what is going on? What do you want to say this week?
Shout out to Lisa and Sean who weren't on the show today. Miss them. And Litecoin Lisa had me on this past Monday, the 50th anniversary of Nixon's takedown. JFK was assassinated, and so was Nixon. Nixon was just character assassinated. So what we were taught in school is different. And so I kind of gave my viewpoint on that. A different
one
lesson.
Something I didn't know that Lewinsky was Mossad. Did you know that?
No,
I didn't know that. And it was sold that he would not pardon what's his name, the spy.
Brzezinski.
No, Lewinsky with Clinton.
Monica.
Okay, Monica Lewinsky.
That they would not pardon the Israeli spy, and so they did that, and it was handed off to Drudge. It's like that whole thing is crazy when you know how this stuff really works.
Anyway, that's a new one.
Andrew. What? Yeah.
I just leave you with a couple of quotes. One's from Max Stirner: "The state calls its own violence law, but that is the individual crime." And then Lysander Spooner: "There can be no criminal intent in resisting injustice."
Right on. And okay. Let's see here. Sorry, Zach. I'm like I got the order mixed up.
So I just like to say,
where can people see you guys? Just tell them where to come and watch your show.
Andrew, you want to drop that? You want to drop your tag before I move on?
If you want to find me on Telegram, it's just t.me/otaku sauce and at hyper I90 on Telegram.
Right on.
So
and the same thing.
Right? Yeah.
Same thing with me. I mean, check that Telegram that Andrew shouted out. We're trying to build our own community too. Memes, econ, politics, and anime.
Right on.
Yeah. So that's how it works. So and shit posting. So, but you can catch me at legacy_ZAK, also on Telegram as well as on X, formerly known as Twitter. Sadly, I'm always on there trying to market. You can check out the Legacy Ride as well that me and Andrew do. That we've had Joe on about a month ago back. That's on all your platforms from Spotify to Apple, whatever your little heart desires, as well as YouTube. And I'm going to leave you with the fact that everybody has a legacy to uphold, whether it's your family, whether it's your culture, whether it's just yourself. So in order to thrive in this world of ours, preserve yourself by preserving a legacy that you can fulfill yourself to. So with that, I will say I am the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. So thank you for having me on, Joe.
Right on. Yeah, thank you. Aaron.
Well, I was just going to say, the CBDC threat is worse now than it was last week. The BTC maxis and the political stuff now because of this election are going to accelerate it. So the time to exit the dollar and work on counter economics is now. And check out daylightfreedom.org for workshops, and follow me on Twitter at Aaron R. Day.
Excellent. And me, follow me on X, and follow Dracaria World on X also. Probably my favorite project I'm working right now. And I don't know. Watch us again next week. Thanks to everybody for joining. It was awesome. This is a great show. It's a very clean show. It was like very, 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 very well done. So okay, what am I gonna play on the way out of here? Let me see. I'll just play this. I'm gonna play this one. See you guys next week. Thank you.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.